Hello and welcome to episode 188 of the Notcast. Today, as you can probably tell by the fact that I'm using this, I'm talking about R.E.M.'s 12th studio album, released on the 14th of May 2001. The album is called Reveal. It doesn't seem like it's 21 years ago. In my mind, this feels like it's about 4 years ago, although as you get older, time moves at a different speed. Obviously, when I was much younger, well, substantially younger, there was a 6-week school holiday, which felt to me like an eternity. Now I think those 6 weeks would go in the blink of an eye, probably, I would have thought, because proportionally it's a much smaller part of my life. When I was like 12, 6 weeks was, I don't know, like 1% of my whole time on the planet, probably. Now 6 weeks is like less than like 0.2 of a percent, so things are obviously very different. R.E.M.'s Reveal is their 12th album, and it was the first album that they recorded completely after the departure of Bill Berry, with absolutely no input from him whatsoever. Bill left 2 days into the sessions for the preceding album, Up, and so therefore some of the songs which are recorded and released on the Up album were at least rehearsed with Bill before he left the group, whereas Reveal is a completely new three-legged dog presenting itself to the world in a completely new way. And I've got to be honest, not my favourite R.E.M. album. In fact, there are very few people that think that Reveal is their favourite R.E.M. album. I think Mike Mills said that if people were going to talk about, their top 3 or 4 R.E.M. albums, people would mention Reveal. I don't think that's the case. I think last year Michael Stipe said Reveal was his favourite R.E.M. album. Again, I don't think that's the case at all. I think this is not their best record by a long shot. And so I'm going to talk about the album, the singles, some promotional stuff that went with it, and really everything that happened in the world of R.E.M. in 2001 and maybe 2002 as well, because there's quite a lot to go through. I think the first thing that we'll do is we'll talk about something that affects this album. It's affected a lot of other albums by similar bands. The Cure, Depeche Mode, not quite so much in the order. There's a thing called CD bloat, free from and unencumbered by the manufacturing restrictions of the length of a vinyl record. Bands now had up to 80 minutes of music that they could put on an album. And there was no need to pare it down to 48 minutes that would fit onto 2 sides of a vinyl disc or a cassette. They had all that space, and as the cliche goes, the work expands to fill the space that's available. Well, some acts released albums that were frankly 40-minute LPs stuffed into a 46 or 56-minute bag, and Reveal is one of those albums. Other albums which I think have too many songs and the arrangements are too long and are in fact weaker, being diluted because they're just too much of the album. It includes Depeche Mode's Exciter album and Tori Amos's Boys for Pele, which I think runs to something like a staggering 76 minutes. And I think some people really need to go, do I really need 76 minutes? Wouldn't 50 minutes be better? And in the case of R.E.M.'s Reveal, although it's only 12 songs long, it still feels like it's 2 songs too long, possibly 3 songs too long, and some of the songs are too long anyway. So, for example, I've Been High, which is only 206 seconds, feels like it's 206 years long, but I will get to that when I talk about that particular song. So with the kind of the theory that I think the band had around about the time that the Reveal came out, and bear in mind they're coming just hot on the heels of U2's All That You Can Leave Behind, which was released in October 2000, is that idea that they were going back to their roots in some way, that they were going for a simplified, direct, sincere songwriting approach. Although, to be honest, it started to move from simplified to banal, and some of the song arrangements were far too long, far too fussy, full of bleeps and bloops and various unnecessary bits that padded the songs out longer than they absolutely needed to be. There's still an impression on this album, and that also exists with Around the Sun, is that somehow these songs are not the songs of 4 people in a room playing the songs together in a circle. Because when you do that, you work through the song, and then you work through the parts that do and don't work. Instead, it's almost songwriting by committee. You know, someone's designing a nose and putting it onto the song, and someone else is designing the feet, and then you end up with something that looks like, you know, the car that Homer Simpson designs in the episode of The Simpsons way back in the 90s. It's almost a concept of these songs have been built in the studio, and there's no sense of editing around that, and that some of the songs are simply too long and too drab. You know, The Office has become a studio, the song has become a product, the stage has become a job. This is the thing that REM do. It's not something that necessarily, you know, when you listen to it, you don't feel a compulsion by three people to make music. It's, this is the thing we do, and we've got some songs, and we're going to write some songs. And some of the songs definitely feel like they're almost the result of someone kind of answering the call from the Brill Building Write an REM song challenges to go, what song could possibly sound as much like REM as possible? Then there's some other songs on the album. Beach Ball is one, for example, which feels like somebody's read a description of what the Beach Boys sound like without actually hearing the Beach Boys and tried to write a song based upon that description. Now, this sounds like I'm kicking REM's Reveal album, and let's be honest, I am. It's not very good. It really isn't. It's too long, too many songs, and some of the songs are significantly unfocused. But let's go perhaps in a slightly different kind of thing. R.E.M. were at a crossroads at this point. They'd successfully navigated the portion of their career where they were stumbling without Bill, and they were working together now in a new three-piece configuration with a session drummer, Joey Waronker, who also plays now in Roger Waters' band. And they've become a legacy act. You know, their first generation of fans. If you got into REM in 1982, that was 20 years ago at this point. You'd grown up, you'd possibly lost your hair, added a bit of weight, maybe got some children, a mortgage, a car, golf, and a pension plan. So listening to REM, that band that spoke to you when you were the 17-year-old nervous teenager trying to look like You No Longer Try in the corner, that was the kid you used to be. That's not the kid that you are now. And some of these songs really probably didn't really speak to you. So when you're driving to work, you stick the REM album in, and you're sat in the traffic and you listen to this sunny, summery 56-minute LP, and you're kind of going, what's happened to the band that I loved? Well, the answer is, one of the legs dropped off. But, the world had changed. And I think that the album itself has a lack of focus. It's too long. It's dragged down by the weight of its own importance. And in some cases, it sounds like solo Michael Stipe tracks remixed by the members of REM and musical backing added to a vocal. And it doesn't always feel like it's a cohesive set of music and lyrics and vocals and melody that sit together. Parts of it, you could have taken the instrumentals and you could have found them on Flaming Lips albums from around about the same period, such as The Soft Bulletin, which I think might be an influence on this record, or maybe albums like Björk and Vespertine. There's that similar sense of almost like trying to touch clouds sometimes with some of the slippery, almost ethereal nature of the songs that are on the LP. I think it's fair to say that if you were in a band that sounded like REM in 1987 and nobody had heard of you for a bit, and suddenly someone went, hey, here's the new REM album, and you listen to it and go, is this a sign? Like when that old meme, which is, what would you say on Twitter to indicate that you've been kidnapped? And obviously, if I tweeted, I really bloody love Ed Sheeran, everyone would be like, Mark's been kidnapped, send in the SAS. In this respect, REM would release an album like Reveal, and everyone would go, REM have been kidnapped, send in the special Warner Brothers Rock Squad to come and get them. It's a harsh description of this album, but this album is no good, very bad indeed, I'm afraid to say. It has some absolutely fantastic songs on it. And I'm going to talk through it now. The first thing I'm going to mention, rather than just showing you a sun-faded 7-inch size box, is this is the special edition of the album that was released in the year 2001. All the REM albums were released in special packaging between about, Automatic for the People, which came in a wooden box in some versions, all the way through to the final album, Collapse Into Now, in 2011, 2010. Those albums all contained a series of special packaging that came with them, and so I've bought the special package versions now, much later after the albums came out, with the idea of actually thinking about them as really these are little R.E.M. and Michael Stipe books as opposed to albums, and it's just really a triumph of packaging. So let's go through this. Now, this is the special edition version. You can probably pick this up for, you know, £3, £4 on Discogs if that's what you want to do. Probably sold for about £20 at the time, and it has some fantastic graphics in there, but it's almost like a book of images and ideas as opposed to a CD delivery system. It's got some lyrics in here. This is one of the first times R.E.M. lyrics had been printed. They're also on the Up album, but these lyrics were presented out of sequence, so there's an alternate running order for the album. I think perhaps some of these songs, they're not necessarily alphabetical as such, but they do have the lyrics written down, and you're able to see, you know, photographs that Stipe has taken from various plane windows. You've got cutout scenes here, and, you know, that kind of stuff. I mean, it's all fantastic graphic work, but it doesn't necessarily signify anything apart from the fact that, well, Michael Stipe likes taking photographs, and R.E.M. has got a fair bit of money to spend on expensive packaging. This is the cover of one of the all the way to Reno CD single covers. I'll show you those later. This is yeah, that's Disappear, probably my least favourite song on the album. There's Saturn Return. Oh god, there's another song I don't like. Here's a cutout of a horse, my lovely horse, as Divine Comedy has it. And what this does, it kind of, I suppose you're probably meant to be like going through this and reading it whilst listening to the album for the first time to try and create an immersive experience, but it doesn't necessarily work quite like that. Obviously this is the page that you saw earlier on, and there's again the lyrics. So for example, All the Way to Reno, which in this sequence of the album on the cover is something like nearly the penultimate song. There's Chorus in the Ring, I've Been High, Summer Turns to High, and then, you know, the album. There it is. Although quite well, it's got a picture of a horse's bum on the front. I don't know, but if you know, buying R.E.M. records with the idea of them making sense, you're on a losing cause already. So this is the CD that comes in the expanded and super duper version of it. It comes in a coloured kind of sleeve. There's your standard CD there. But it's designed in a kind of like a yellow thing, and you just kind of tuck it into there, into the fold, and there you are. Lovely bit of packaging, obviously completely useless. The album opens side 1, track 1, with The Lifting, and The Lifting is a song which, it's one of my favourite songs on the album actually. In fact, if not my favourite, there are 3 or 4 really classic R.E.M. songs on the album. The Lifting is one of them, and it comes in 2 forms. There's a demo version of The Lifting, which is released on the CD single of Imitation of Life, and there is the standard LP version. And the standard LP version of The Lifting is, I mean, the demo is long, it's laborious, it's slow, it's almost boring in its original tempo. If you remember Star Trek the motion picture, there's a 7-minute beauty tracking shot of the USS Enterprise, where for some bizarre reason, presumably because they wanted to do a really long 7-minute shot of the Enterprise, you can go, wow, that spaceship's pretty, cool, blimey governor, isn't it just indeed? Where actually it's long, it's too long, and the slow version of The Lifting goes at a Mogadon pace. It's really slow and it's laborious and it's just dull, whereas thanks to Joe Rwonka's, you can tell I haven't got used to saying that name, thanks to Joey's input, the band sped the song up and we've got a much faster, pacier, livelier song. And the opening track on the album, The Lifting, I think is absolutely great. There's this lovely bit where the melody kind of sits down and the pre-chorus kicks in, or the post-chorus depending on your point of view, and Stipe kind of repeats the phrase never, 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 and he kind of like dances around the melody as if he almost can't contain himself. He's just carried away on this euphoric tide of joy as the song and the album lifts up from the land like a jetliner taking to space or to the clouds. And you kind of like that moment where you pass, I think it's called V2, the point of no return, where you rotate and you go up into the air, and the song sounds like a jet engine taking off. It's graceful, it's sleek, it's beautiful, slightly scary, and I've never seen the band play it live, which is a shame. Track 2 on the album, I'm afraid to say, is one of my least favourite songs on the album, and that is, I think, fundamentally unfair, because actually it's a really good song, just the version and the mix that they put on the LP is pretty damn poor. I've mentioned the song before. It is called I've Been High, and it's 206 seconds long. For the uninitiated, that's 3 minutes 26 seconds, and I feel every one of those seconds, because you effectively you've got this fantastic REM track, I've Been High. It sounds like something which would have come out of Automatic for the People, with just a mandolin and an acoustic guitar and an organ, and Stipe's beautiful voice. But like a lot of the songs on the album, it's covered in bleeps and bloops and doodads and extra names and extra sounds and extra things that don't add anything to the song. They just kind of highlight how barren the musical texture of the song actually is, and how unimaginative some of the songwriting is. Now, if you take those bleeps and bloops away, actually what you've got is a gorgeous naked REM song. There are far superior acoustic versions of I've Been High, one of which was released on the B-side of the single I'll Take the Rain, and is also on a promotional album called Not Bad for No Tour. And I'll post a link to the acoustic version of I've Been Here down there. But by the way, that's me indicating the comments section, it's not indicating my legs. But I'll post an acoustic version of I've Been High in the comments section, and you can hear it and go, that's the version that should have been on the album. The version with all the bleeps and bloops. As I've said before, it really sounds like R.E.M. remixing a Michael Stipe solo track. The music and the melody and the vocals just don't sit together at all well. It feels really long. It feels much longer than 3.5 minutes. I mean, Waiting in the Rain feels like 3.5 minutes. 3.5 minutes when you do that really feels like much longer than 3.5 minutes. I've Been High feels even longer than 3.5 minutes standing in the rain, waiting for a train. Track 3 is All the Way to Reno, and there is an alternate mix of Reno which is on some circulating CDRs, which has a different ending and is a little different. But All the Way to Reno, the demo was called Jimmy Webb on Mars, and it's REM by numbers. If someone was to go to an advertising guy and go, write a song that sounds like REM for a sad advert about the Yellow Pages, they go, oh, I've got this, and they'll play All the Way to Reno. And the other thing with All the Way to Reno is nobody goes to Reno to be famous. It's like saying, well, I'm going to Walsall to make my fortune. Like, the whole of Walsall stuck together isn't worth very much. So not quite sure why you're doing that. And then we've got track 4, which is She Just Wants to Be. And She Just Wants to Be is one of the best songs on the LP. In my mind, She Just Wants to Be is a single. Even though it isn't a single, it always is a single in my mind. And I know I'm totally wrong for thinking this. It's too long, it's too wordy, it's got some really awkward kind of lyrics in there where I'm just kind of sat there and going, what on earth are you trying to say? So, for example, there's a great opening line. It's not that she walked away, her world got smaller, all the usual places, the same destinations, only something's changed. And that's a great opening lyric to a song. It's about, for example, if you're in a relationship and the relationship shrinks, and then it becomes the defining walls that are around your life, and what do you do about that, and how do you live with that? And sometimes if you've been in a relationship and it's got really claustrophobic, and you feel that somehow is that it's oppressing you, that's what that stanza says. But then you then get a line like, it's not that the transparency of her earlier incarnations now looked back on weren't rich and loaded with beautiful vulnerability, and now she knows. And I'm like, well, that looks like English and that looks like words, but none of it makes any sense. It's a heck of a mouthful. It's the kind of disjointed syntax that Richie Edwards from the Manics would go, brilliant, more of that. And then you'd have James Dean Bradfield kind of shouting it out in 14 seconds over a Panzer Attack guitar riff, which is a way of saying it's a really inelegant use of language. It reads like it's a lyric that's been thrown into Google Translate, translated into something like Dutch, then translated to French, then to Portuguese, then back to English again, and all of a sudden you get some line around how some fat bold technologist drives me insane. Which is a shame, because the lyric on She Just Wants to Be is poor, but the song itself is really good. And there's an excellent live guitar solo on live versions of She Just Wants to Be. If you watch the Perfect Square DVD recorded in 2003, there's a new guitar solo in that song that is much better. Now, song 5 is Disappear. This is one of the songs I take off the album. So when Michael Stipe wrote it, he was like, I'm not sure this is my song. I think that I'm actually kind of rewriting Radiohead's How to Disappear Completely and Never Be Found from the Kid A album. But Tom York said, actually, I'm writing something which you told me. So Disappear is your song. How to Disappear Completely is Radiohead taking what you've said and turning it into a different song. And one of the things which Michael Stipe was talking about when Tom York was struggling with touring in 1995 was, you have to remember that the version of Tom York that exists in other people's eyes is not a reflection of who you really are. You're not really here. This isn't really happening. This is something which you're forced into doing. If you've watched Meeting People is Easy, the documentary about Radiohead, there's a section where he's walking down the road, Tom York, and he's wearing a backpack, and some guy is shouting at him, "Hey Radiohead, creep, loser, jarhead, moron," that kind of thing. He's just standing there waiting for the lights to change and just like, what the fuck am I doing this for, And Disappear is around that, is that we've all been in situations where you sit there and you kind of go, this isn't happening. I'm denying this experience because this experience is horrific and excruciating. And I've definitely been in work meetings where I've sat there and gone, this is, a fallacy, a farce. This isn't what's really happening. Obviously, I'm not standing on a stage in front of 20,000 people, but Disappear is around that. It's about how to maintain and keep some slice of yourself for privacy and for your own integrity. There's a part of the world that belongs just to you. Sadly, Disappear is one of my least favourite songs on the album. So even though the lyric is quite good, the song would go in the bin. I'd make that a B-side. And the same with the next track on the album, Saturn Return. Now, I listened to this recently, and the album, and my partner went, "Is this Michael Bublé?" And I was like, "No, it's Michael Stipe. How dare you?" To me, Saturn Return feels like the kind of thin Coldplay album track, which Coldplay hadn't yet started writing. They do this type of stuff maybe 10 years later. Again, it's a song that I wouldn't include on the album if I was doing the track list. And then the next track that we've got is Beat a Drum. Beat a Drum, there's an alternate mix of that, of Beat a Drum, called All I Want, which was on the kind of like the early configuration of the album. And it's quite a good song, but it's not amazing. And there's a demo recorded in Dalkey in Ireland, which is on the CD single Imitation of Life. And of course, in the alternate running order of the album, I think Beat a Drum might be the only song that's in this booklet that doesn't actually have a lyric attached to it. So maybe the lyric is not written down anywhere. I don't know. Well, this is exciting. Let's watch Mark look through a book. Oh no, Beat a Drum is on here. So again, it's a lyric which has got. You read the lyrics to a song like Beat a Drum, and what you realise when you read those lyrics and you go, okay, Michael Stipe has been into therapy. You can hear it in the lyrics. You can hear it in the use and language and construction and syntax of the lyrics of the songs. That there has very definitely been some therapy sessions here. The way in which he rotates around certain ideas, grounding himself in nature, dragonflies, beach balls, things like that, hyacinth, all that type of stuff, and it's like a grounding thing. It's like, when you feel the grass growing beneath your toes, and you feel it if you're walking barefoot on grass, and you go, that's what's real. The idea, the other artificial human constructs that exist on top of it, things, concepts like money and division and borders and politics and passports and all those type of things. You just kind of think, well, they're artificial constructs designed by a man, like peaches put into a can, it's Beat a Drum is okay, not amazing. In fact, the best song on the album, apart from the lifting, is track 8, which is Imitation of Life. Imitation of Life was the first single that was released from the album, and it's got a fantastic video. I think it's fair to say a really great video, but the whole video is only 15 seconds long, and the video for the song is just repeating, highlighting and moving in, zooming in and out various bits of footage that happened in that 15 seconds. That is the lyric sheet. for Imitation of Life that's in the special edition of it. But since I have mentioned it, I probably should talk about the CD and DVD single. DVD single's a terrible idea, of Imitation of Life here. The CD of Imitation of Life contains the album version, which runs at 3 minutes 52 seconds. There is an extended version that was on the early configuration of the album that runs for 4.5 minutes. That's about an extra 40-50 seconds in it. You're not missing anything, it's just repetition. So for example, maybe there's an extra chorus doubled up, or there's an extra bridge line that's in there, or maybe there's an extra, 2 bars in the introduction or the pre-chorus or something like that. So the single version and the album version of Imitation of Life, they are edits of a much, much longer version of the song. And the longer version of the song, frankly, is too long. So the edited Imitation of Life. And on the B-sides for this, we've got the original demo version of The Lifting and the Dalkey demo of Beat the Drum. And on the DVD single, terrible phrase DVD single is, I don't even know if anyone's got DVDs anymore, actually. I mean, I have, but most people haven't. You've got the lyrics to Imitation of Life and The Lifting there. You've got a DVD single on an exciting blue disc, and you've got a track called 2JN. 2JN is yet another REM instrumental that Michael Stipe didn't write lyrics for. A lot of the B-sides that are instrumental are just songs that REM worked up and Michael Stipe listened and went, I can't get a melody for it. And when I listen to 2JN, which is not very often, I do go, I couldn't think of a melody to go on this piece of music. It's kind of like a bit of instrumental music that you might have expected initially to be in the Man on the Moon soundtrack. Now we have track 9 is Summer Turns to High, also known on the CD single of All the Way to Reno, which is here. Oh no, that is I'll Take the Rain. This is all the Way to Reno as 32 chord song. No, it isn't on that one. It's on the I'll Take the Rain CD single as 32 chord song at 3 minutes and 4 seconds. The version of Summer Turns to High on this CD single is an alternate acoustic demo, which is fine, and I'm more than happy about that, apart from the fact that I bought this expecting a new REM song, and I got a demo version of one of my least favourite REM songs. Summer Turns to High is okay, but like a lot of the lyrics that are on the album, it's obsessed with summer, spring, sunlight, temperature, heat, warmth. This is, Reveal is kind of like very definitely a sequel to Up. And Up is written while someone is going through hell. And the concept is that, when you go through hell, you keep going. Whereas Reveal is kind of like what happens afterwards, after you've got to the other side of that. And you look back on the journey that you've been through and you go, oh my God, I've been through some right rubbish. I've been through hell. And it's difficult, to kind of realise what you've gone through when you are going through it. This is the lyric page for Summer Turns to High from the deluxe edition of the album. It's a good song. It's not an amazing song, and like a number of other songs on the album, it feels like a pep talk. Imitation of Life, for example, feels like it's a pep talk to someone that's down, like, Why Not Smile from Up. Imitation of Life is the same thing. It's kind of like going, yeah, there's lovely, great stuff out here. Don't be so bloody miserable, guys. And whilst Imitation of Life reuses the chord changes from Driver 8, Summer Turns to High is kind of a song that, hold on, sunshine is coming. It's a bit, there's an element of saying something without having anything to say in some of the lyrics to this album, and very possibly this video as well. But Summer Turns to High is, it's an okay song. I'd keep it on the album, but I definitely wouldn't keep the next song on the album, which is Chorus and the Ring. And Chorus and the Ring is one of the 3 songs that I'd take off the album alongside Disappear and Saturn Returns. It's got okay, but when you've got a chorus that goes, the chorus, chime in the Greek chorus, the machine of God singing, and you go, so that's the chorus, because you've mentioned the chorus in the lyrics, but it's not very memorable. If you were to say, Mark, sing this song now, and I will give you £10,000, no prep, and I'd be like, I can't do it. I'm like, I could maybe get a couple of lines out of the melody for it, but I wouldn't know. I couldn't remember the song well enough. I'd have to rehearse it. Now we come to the last 2 songs on the album, and the penultimate song on the album is, as far as I'm concerned, 100% R.E.M. classic. If you disagree with me, I will fight you and you'll lose, but I'm a lover, not a fighter, baby. That song is I'll Take the Rain. It is one of the most gorgeous R.E.M. songs that there is. And I'll Take the Rain, as previously shown somewhere in my pile of CD singles, did get the release as the third single from the album. It's a brilliant, brilliant song. If it had come out in 1992, and it had been like, it would sit up there with Find the River and Night Swimming, everyone would go, incredible song. R.E.M. classic, masterpiece, amazing song. But it came out in 2001. R.E.M. were old men. That singer had lost all his hair and couldn't hide it with hats. The drummer had left, and the R.E.M. were old blokes who weren't half as exciting as the Strokes, or were they? No, nope. So it's not. It's a song that I think has been very unfairly overlooked. I'll Take the Rain, and it's got this gorgeous line around. I knew you when I loved you then. In summer's yawn, now hopeless, you laid me bare and marked me there, the promises we made. And as when Stipe focuses on lyrics and he puts the effort in, he can nail something with an incredible accuracy that cuts through everything else and gets right to the heart of the matter. And with that line in I'll Take the Rain, he's kind of saying, who we are is not who we remain. We change, we evolve over time. But that was real, that happened. I loved you then. I knew you when I loved you. And you laid me bare. And, you marked me there, and the promises we made. You exposed me right down to the heart of exactly who I was. And this is who I was, but it's not who I am. And it's a really powerful idea that I don't think gets talked about enough in songs, about how people change over time. And as I've said before, the songs that I love and listen to are the songs which to me are around how we songs provide to me a map through my reality. I know I'm wherever it is, I'm there, but if I don't know where I am, I'm lost, aren't I? And songs provided a map for me, and a ground and a base. And I'll Take the Rain is simply one of the finest R.E.M. songs there is, and it's staggering that they've only played it live, I think 9 times, and only 5 times publicly. 4 times they played it, tiny little TV appearances to like 25 people or something. The album ends on a song called Beach Ball. It's pretty good. It's not amazing. It almost feels like it's an encore song, actually. So if you think about the album being designed like a live show, the main climax of the live show is I'll Take the Rain, and then Beach Ball is like a flippant kind of encore. It's very heavily influenced by the Beach Boys. It's got this kind of broken, waltzy samba sound to it. But it's not an amazing song. It's very definitely lesser on the album. 2 songs were taken off the album at a very late day. So as I said, there were some early CDRs circulating of some early version of the album, which featured alternate mixes of I've Been High, Brino, She Just Wants to Be, Beat a Drum, An Imitation of Life. It also had a song called Freeform Jazz, which is 17 seconds of noodly instrumentalage, and a song called Fascinating. Fascinating is, if you'd only ever read about Fascinating and hadn't heard it, you're like, oh, incredible song, can't understand why they didn't stick it out. Having heard Fascinating, it was recorded for both the Reveal album and in 2004 for the Around the Sun album. A version was released, the 2004 version was released in 2019 of Fascinating, and listening to it, it's a thoroughly mediocre song. It was 1 song too many for the album, and it had to come out. Fascinating also has a vocal melody that reminds me very, very much of Love Is All Around, the cover version of the Trogs, which R.E.M. did, and Wet 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 then shamelessly ripped off in order to get a #1 for about 20 gazillion years. Around about the same time, the Reveal album, that's the Reveal album. The 12 songs are there, and it really should have been 10 songs. So I would have taken out Disappear, Saturn Returns, and Chorus in the Ring. I'd add The Great Beyond in, because I think that's a fantastic R.E.M. song that, although it was a #1, I think, in Germany, I could be wrong, it was, it's a great ignored R.E.M. song. Most people, when they think of R.E.M., don't think of The Great Beyond, and they should, but they don't. So that's Reveal. That's R.E.M.'s 12th studio album. There are only 3 more after this. And it's got some great songs on it, but it's an album that's very definitely less than the sum of its parts, and it feels actually in some respects like there's too much of it, like it's been diluted in its concentration and it's been watered down a little bit by having too many songs and too many arrangements that are too long. Have I told you there are too many long songs on it, and there are too many songs, and the songs need to be edited down? I think it's been at least 3 minutes since I mentioned that. But yeah, that's R.E.M.'s Reveal. Now there was no, that's not all, of course. There was a bunch of other stuff that happened. I've shown you the singles for Imitation of Life. All the Way to Reno was the second single which came out from the album, and here's the CD single, the UK version, which is backed with a cover version of Yellow River and Imitation of Life live at Trafalgar Square. Here is the DVD single. Terrible idea. This has an exclusive REM track on it. It's called 165 Hillcrest. It is 94 seconds long. It's completely instrumental. You really are missing absolutely nothing by not hearing it. Nothing at all. Fuck all. Zero. Zip. Nada. Zilch. Denada. Nothing. It is a terrible song. The third CD, the third single from the album, is I'll Take the Rain. Here's one of the CD singles from I'll Take the Rain, which, as I've said before, is obviously an incredible song. It's also backed with a video track of I've Been High, recorded at the Channel V in Sydney. And this version of I've Been High is one of the very definitive takes of the track. As I've mentioned before, an acoustic version of I've Been High is far superior to the LP mix. I'll post a link to the version recorded in Sydney, but it is definitely much better. The band didn't tour. The band played about 25 shows, 8 of which were public, 17 of which were for competition winners in various places in New York and Sydney. Imagine flying all the way to Sydney and going, well, I'm going to play 6 songs. I mean, what a waste of your time and your money and your effort, isn't it? But since they didn't tour, they released this EP. Not bad for no tour. By the way, R.E.M., if you're thinking of doing a Record Store Day release in future, Not Bad for No Tour on white vinyl would be an ideal choice to go alongside your repress of Reveal when that comes out in approximately 5 years' time. But this is a 6-song EP. It features the single remix of All the Way to Reno. Then it's got live versions of Reno, She Just Wants to Be, The One I Love, So Central Rain, and Beat a Drum. It's also got 6 video tracks. So it's got Imitation of Life in Cologne, Losing My Religion in London, Find the River in New York, I've Been High in Sydney, that gorgeous version from Sydney, and The Lifting, which was recorded live in Toronto. And since the band didn't tour, they only played 8 public shows and 17 TV shows. This was, the live document. This, by the way, is a great EP. If you can find it and you like R.E.M. and you haven't heard it, do pick it up. It's worth getting, and then maybe you can understand why they didn't release it. There was also a fan club single that came out in 2001. Here it is. This is the fan club CD, which features some wonderful imagery here. It had some Christmas cards, and I think it's got a sticker of a thumbs up gesture there. Hey, loving your work. There you go. And it's got alternate studio and rehearsal versions of the new acoustic version of Let Me In and a version of Find the River, recorded in the band's rehearsal studio in Mountain View, California, I think. It's a lovely little EP. I do wish they'd reissue these, but they haven't. They've made a specific point of apart from the New Adventures in Hi-Fi, say deluxe edition, not using B-sides and not using fan club singles. There was also a fan club EP that was released in 2002. Here it is. It has got cover versions of No Matter What and Jesus Christ, and there was the CD in there, 2-track CD, which technically speaking could have gone in there. There's some paraphernalia, there's some Christmassy stuff. It's okay. It also features video of Michael Stipe reading some text written by Martin Luther King. But for example, the cover on that is "Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that." It's part of that speech from Martin Luther King. We had a couple of other things that came out around about the same time. The band released a download-only remix album. This is a promotional CD. It's called Remix, R.E.M.ix. I don't quite know quite how they did it. It's got remixes of The Lifting, I'll Take the Rain, I've Been High, and She Just Wants to Be, and Beach Ball, and Summer Turns to High. Totally inessential. The remixes are not particularly good, but it's good to have them, I suppose. The idea that they were perhaps thinking about putting these out as singles or B-sides or something. But to me, I don't think there's ever been a good REM remix. I've never heard one that I've liked, and I don't think I'm about to start now. But again, a promotional only remix CD on a printed CDR. Don't worry, guys. Record store day. Put this out as an LP. White vinyl. Boo boo boo. There you go. Do that. That's what you should do. But of course, since when have REM listened to me? Never. They're not about to start. So 2005 saw the release of, as I've mentioned before, the 5.1 DVD version of the album, remixed into multi-track DVD by Elliot Schneer. And unlike Up, this has got the same mixes on. The version of, I think it's Sad Professor on the DVD of Up has a different vocal, but Reveal is just 5.1, and the enterprising of you can isolate these 5.1 tracks and use them to remix REM tracks, which I've done with 9 Inch Nails Downward Spiral 5.1 DVD-A, actually a Super Audio CD. This is the most plentiful of the 2005 DVD releases because it has a 32-minute documentary on it, including some alternate kind of live in the studio performances as well. It's not amazing. Inevitably, it will be released on Blu-ray when the 25th anniversary comes around in 2026. Good God, I feel old when I describe it like that. Of course, the REM machine rolls on, and the 1991 and 2001 Unplugged sessions for MTV were released in 2014. The 2001 session features the only live performance that I can find of Disappear, alongside a number of other really, really good and interesting acoustic versions of the tracks. And the video from the 2001 Unplugged session is featured on R.E.M.T.V, the DVD box set of MTV appearances that I will mention many, many times over future episodes, including the longest and most public of shows in 2001, apart from the Rock in Rio and the Brazil show, which is the Cologne show in the shadow of the cathedral in Cologne, which was to somewhere around about 100,000 people, and they played a free show. And when I watched that, I was kind of going, really should have toured this LP, because the LP itself is not particularly good. And if the LP isn't particularly good, then the other thing that you hold up is, well, at least the live shows will be good. But if there are no live shows, really difficult. I really disconnected from REM at this period because I thought the album was pretty bland and pretty vague and not particularly great, and there were no live shows for me to kind of attach myself to. There was also on the Live at the BBC box set, the DVD features a Top of the Pops appearance from 2001 and 4 songs recorded, 4 songs recorded overall at Top of the Pops in 2001 as well on here, alongside that lovely multicoloured book. Now, the one thing that I will say is there's an extra thing, which I don't know how I feel about this. This is a book. It's called Outline of My Lover, written by Douglas A. Martin, and it is a song about a relationship between an older man who sings in a band and a younger man who doesn't sing in a band and doesn't have a job. And it was published in the year 2000. Is very, very clearly, without mentioning the name, I feel it is clear that the singer in the band, which is being mentioned as the other guys, as the author's partner in this book, is the singer in REM. And it felt, I mean, apparently it's an early auto-fiction classic in the gay genre. I've read it and it felt really uncomfortable, actually, because I felt there were the things that I didn't want to know, and it felt kind of revealing. And you imagine, if you've been in an asymmetric relationship where the other person in the relationship has more power and more influence than you, and I think we've all been in a relationship like that, you kind of, it was quite uncomfortable to read this around, the element of power and control and authority and influence and money that might happen, which maybe the other person isn't necessarily always aware of. Is that they're not necessarily grounded around that. But also there's things that I'm going, do I really need to know about how they have sex? Do I need to know about how certain things happen? Do I need to know about the emotional immaturity of someone? It's an awkward and it's a difficult read, and I'm not sure I felt particularly clean after reading it. I felt like I had an insight into something I didn't necessarily want to know. I thought it might be interesting, but it felt a bit voyeuristic. This book is very well written, very well done, but it's a bit voyeuristic, and I felt quite uncomfortable reading parts of it, thinking that should be something that nobody else should know, or there needed to be more fiction in this as opposed to less fiction. Um, but there you are. Maybe that's part of the thinking which comes alongside the title of the album being revealed, is that things are being revealed that maybe shouldn't be revealed. Not everything is for public consumption. There are parts of my life that you aren't going to know about. They're not very exciting. What do I say to the cats when they come into the room? Although actually you've seen me do that. But everyone needs to have a part of their life that belongs to them and doesn't belong for everyone else and for other people's interest. And reading this, and I kind of felt, I don't know if I want to carry on reading it. But if you are absolutely the kind of person that wants to know everything, this I think is helpful in understanding perhaps some parts of the REM story that may not necessarily be otherwise known. But do come prepared. It's not an easy read. And that wraps up REM's 12th album, Reveal, released a staggering 21 years ago. I hope you are all taking care of yourselves. I will be seeing some of you pretty soon at gigs, I hope. I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to be at one a week from today, and there are more to come. It's been a nice experience having a chat. Hope that you're okay with that and everything else. Hopefully you've got a newfound appreciation of the Reveal album, and if you haven't, rest assured, take those 3 songs I've mentioned off and it'll be better. Okay, take care of yourselves. See you soon, and bye.